here's what I want to do. I want to go ahead and unpack 2 Corinthians chapter 6. And this, I think, gives just a little bit of the flavor of what it means to be a Christian on social media. Now, I want to remind you of something. In 2 Corinthians 5, you actually see Paul talking to the people at Corinth, and he has actually just gotten through the point about how we're supposed to be ambassadors for Christ, and we're supposed to be offering Christ reconciliation, that we're supposed to be reconciling things. And so the point of it is, we look at the word reconciliation, we make it such a weird thing. It's really not. If you think about, maybe you're old enough to remember what a checkbook is, and you go and you look at your accounts and you try to balance, you try to make sure that what the bank has pulled out and all the other vendors have pulled out is the same amount as what you show as a record. So when we insert Christ into this, we want to make sure that we reconcile and that it balances out on each side of the equation. Now you're saying, now what does all that mean? Okay, so 2 Corinthians 6, again, it's just that last little part after 5 where we're called to be ambassadors. So an ambassador goes out into an area and sets foot on land that he doesn't necessarily own, but he represents that nation that he's from, and we know that we are members of a heavenly world, and we know that heaven is our home. We know that this earth is not our home. This world as it is not our home. And so as I go on to 2 Corinthians 6, what we see happening here, and I think I saw a couple of trolls. I'm just going to ignore you. I'm going to let you hold on with me a little bit. If you're willing to hold on, I'll be okay with that. And so what I want to do, again, 2 Corinthians 6, it says, as God's partners, we beg you not to accept this marvelous gift of God's kindness and then ignore it. Don't ignore it, okay? For God says, at just the right time, I've heard you, and on the day of salvation, I've helped you. And so here's what Paul says. He says, indeed, right now is the right time. Today is the day of salvation. And then he goes on in verse 3. Again, we're in 2 Corinthians 6, 3. It says, we live in such a way that no one will stumble because of us. Let's do that. Let's live in a way and in a manner that no one will stumble because of us. Yes, we're going to make mistakes, and that's fine. Let's own up to them. Let's shake the dust off our feet and get the dirt off our knees. Let's get back up. But the whole challenge is with social media today, it's so easy to stumble and fall. There's so much mess that's going on. And the point is that what we want to do is, as true ministers, we want to live in such a way that people won't find fault with us, because we're living in a day and age where people are trying to find fault with us as Christians, which I think is very interesting, because what does that say about the way the world views Christians? If we're held up to a standard that we can't reach, that must mean that they assert Christ to be at such a high level. So it's not that the church is full of hypocrites. In fact, I would have to say, and I would have to argue, that we're the only worldview where we can really admit our own fault, or maybe I should say that. And we have to admit, if we're going to be a Christ follower, we have to admit our own fallenness. We're actually reaching out to something outside of ourselves to make us perfect, to make us worthy, and to make us worth any while. So anyways, let's go on to verse 4. It says, in everything we do, we show that we are true ministers of God. We've been beaten, but put in prison. Oh, actually, hold on. We've been, that we're true ministers. I'm trying to read you guys and then also read this at the same time. Verse 4, in everything we do, we show that we're true ministers of God. We patiently endure troubles and hardships and calamities of every kind. For any of you trolls that still may be hanging out, that's why I'm okay to endure it. If you guys can hang out with it in the comments, I'm okay with it. It's not a big deal. I'd rather you hear the gospel, even if you don't agree with me. Listen, Paul says this. He says, we've been beaten. We've been put in prison. We face angry mobs where we've worked to exhaustion. We've endured sleepless nights and gone without food. We prove ourselves by our purity, our understanding, our patience, our kindness, by the Holy Spirit within us, and by our sincere love. We faithfully preach the truth. God's power is working in us. And I want to pause right there for just a moment. So here's what you see happening. And show the love. Yeah, absolutely. That's very good. Pastor Green, man, that's right. They need some love too, and they need the gospel too. Absolutely. So Here's what we want to do. We prove ourselves by our purity in the way that we interact through social media and the things that we say. I just recently was at a great conference, and they made a great point that before you post up anything, pray first. But don't ever respond out of emotion. Respond out of the agape love of God. It's too easy, and there's too much boldness when sometimes there's not a face right in front of us. Here's the thing. If it's important enough for you to respond, reach out to that person in a Christ-like way, in a personal way. Take the higher road and give them the benefit of the doubt. You never know their story. That's awesome. I see that. Pastor Karen, awesome deal. ChristianWorldChurch.com, CWCDallas.com. That's a great website for a great church that I'm lucky to be a part of. I'm blessed to be a part of. But so here's what we're talking about. Again, with social media, it's so important, whether it's Facebook or Periscope or Twitter or Instagram or any of those other ones. They're meant to be tools. They're meant to be tools. They can be tools used by the enemy. But here's the thing I think that we do as Christians. We pull away. We pull back. We see junk going on and we say, okay, we're out of here. But yet we need to remember there's another passage that tells us we haven't been given the spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. And we're called to be light and to be salt, and we're called to engage the world where it is, so that we can bring them to the foot of the cross of Jesus Christ. So I say that to say this. Back in verse 7, 2 Corinthians 6 and 7, we faithfully preach the truth. God's power is working in us. If you're a Christian, God's power is working in you. Yes, even on social media. And so listen to this, we use the weapons of righteousness in the right hand for attack and in the left hand for defense. It's so important that we realize that we have a 1-2 punch when it comes to the enemy. And again, flesh and blood isn't our enemy. We war against powers not of this world. It's a shame evangelism has died down. Well, bring it back, man. Bring it back. You're a part of that. If you're following Christ, go ahead and bring that back. But bring these weapons of righteousness in your right hand for attack and left hand in defense. It's so important. I love there's a passage that's spoken of, and I believe it's Paul, where he talks about going on. It's going on the offensive. It's not being offensive. It's going on the offensive. It's agonizomia, and it's where we get our word agonize from. But it actually has kind of the feel and the punch, if you will, of a pugilist, of a boxer in the ring. And then you also, everybody's familiar with 1 Peter, where this disciple, this apostle, is telling us that we're supposed to have an apologia. We're supposed to have a defense. We're supposed to have an answer for the faith that we have. But how? He qualifies it. He adds a caveat that we do it with gentleness and with respect. So we use these weapons of righteousness in the right hand for attack and in the left hand for defense. And the last one in verse 8, we serve God whether people honor us or despise us, whether they slander us or whether they praise us. And that's so important in the day and age that we're in. It's very interesting that as soon as somebody tries to stand up for righteousness in some of the big hot seat controversial issues, that they're immediately met with a lot of hate. It's interesting. We're called the ones who hate, yet it baffles me how many times I get called names for just simply standing up for my ideas and my worldview, not my religion, my relationship with Christ, and my heart for God and my worldview. So I'm done right now. That's all I had to say. Again, that's 2 Corinthians 6, 1 through 8. I challenge you to read that on your own. I'll just take a few minutes. If there's anybody that has any questions, I'll go ahead and answer that. That's awesome. Jason Demas, I think I caught that. Awesome. Sasha, I don't know what you mean by denigrating others. We don't do that. Terry, for another hour. Nate, I don't know, man. I got a few more minutes in me and I got to get back to sleep. I love it. LD Valencia, relationship better than religion. You got that right. Anybody else? Any questions out there before we close out? All right, I'm going to give just a couple of more minutes. I want to just remember you. God bless you, Daniel. I appreciate that. Make sure you follow me at Travis Marshall 4 on Twitter and then on Periscope. Oh, that's very kind, Wanda. Thank you very much. Thanks for saying. Oh, did I say it right? Awesome. All right, Valencia. Yes, very good. Awesome deal. Appreciate you. Ultra Spy, just thanks for putting yourself out there, man. Look, we're all in this together. Go ahead and put yourself back out. Absolutely. Do that. Follow back. Valencia, you got it. Do you think the grace message is overused or taught wrong? Fantastic question. I don't feel that it's balanced out the way that it needs to be sometimes. It cannot be used enough. Paul said where sin abounds, grace abounds much more. Grace has to be used. Grace is a tool. It's not a toy. Just like what we talked about with social media and being a Christ follower. Grace has to be used in perfect balance. We have to know, what do we see in John? We see that Jesus came full of grace and truth. We have to be able to preach truth. Bye-bye, John gone. You are gone. Very good. Sorry, man. That one did hit me right. Love you, dude. God bless you. And so anyways, yeah, Jason, awesome. Very cool. And so, hey, yeah, as long as you're not acting foolish, too foolish, I'm going to be okay with you. Anyway, so are there any other questions that you got? You can go ahead and throw those out. I see our feed's starting to come down a little bit. So I'm going to just go ahead and close out by saying this. Thank you so much. God bless you. Lord bless everybody that's listening. I pray that you make their lives fruitful for God. Go before them in everything that they do. Lord, remind us that we haven't been given the spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. Make sure you hit me up. That's awesome. Thank you again, Valencia. Awesome deal, Amanda. Oh man, I appreciate that. The real Elisha, man. I love that tagline. Awesome. The Bronze Fawns. I love it, man. You guys got some really cool names. Lord says, keep you going. You're crazy, man. Hey, I'm going to do as many of these as I can. Let me say this before I leave. You can check me out at a couple of different places. GrilledChristian.com is my personal website. That's Grilled Christian. Yeah, it sounds grilled. It sounds like grilled chicken. It's GrilledChristian.com. And I go to and I attend a wonderful church. I saw somebody from Fellowship Church there. What you be our Christian. Not sure what you're saying there, Amanda Miranda. Anyway, so again, my church's website is www.cwcdallas.com, or that's ChristianWorldChurch.com. Check those guys out. I'm under the pastorship of Pastor George Hancock. Wonderful man of God. Love that place. Love being able to serve there. God bless you all. And again, if you want to follow me on Twitter, what you want, be Christian. I want to be a Christian. I'm not sure what you're asking. I do apologize. Hit me up on Twitter if you would, Amanda. Christian Gray. No, wrong Christian. All right. God bless you guys. I will be archiving these very soon on my YouTube channel. You can again find out my YouTube channel from, I see y'all laughing with me there. That's pretty good. Night, guys. Love you. Y'all have fun. And we'll catch up again. I'm going to do as many of these as I can. God bless.